Two McLarens, side by side, fighting for second place behind Verstappen. A Sauber dives too deep into turn 1, just inches away. A single, almost invisible touch sends one McLaren flying straight into the other. In 3 seconds, McLaren's championship hopes are shattered, and the paddock goes silent. From the moment the lights went out, the world saw what they expected: speed, precision, the raw beauty of Formula One unleashed. But what no one saw, not even the cameras that caught every glint of sunlight, was the chain of decisions and physics that would collide a few seconds later. As Verstappen darted forward from pole, Norris and Piastri launched almost perfectly in sync. They weren't fighting enemies, they were fighting each other, shoulder to shoulder, both desperate not to yield before turn 1. It was beautiful, tense, inevitable. That corner turn 1 is Austin's legend and its curse. A blind uphill climb into a narrowing apex, steep as a hill climb, cruel as a trap. The kind of corner that rewards courage and punishes inches. 5 cars entered side by side. Verstappen on the inside, Norris in the middle, Piastri on the outer line, and just behind, a white Sauber looking for a miracle. The grip was fading with every meter. The air itself seemed to hum with risk. And then, in less than 3 seconds, the line between precision and disaster disappeared. From the outside, it looked like chaos: a burst of carbon fiber, a blur of orange, the unmistakable sound of impact. But inside those cockpits, everything was slower, sharper, terrifyingly clear. Hulkenberg's Sauber hit a bump under braking and lost traction for less than half a heartbeat. His front left tire brushed Piastri's rear left, a contact so small it might have gone unnoticed on camera. But at 200 km/h, there's no such thing as a small touch. Piastri's McLaren snapped sideways, skidding across the track, straight into the path of Norris. The two papaya cars met in a violent twist of fate. The collision was brutal, metal against metal, carbon splintering in the Texas sun. One McLaren spun like a coin on the tarmac, the other slammed into the barriers. From the grandstands, it was disbelief. From the pit wall, heartbreak. Both cars destroyed, both drivers silent. Inside the cockpit, Piastri's radio cracked with static before a quiet voice: "I've lost the rear, I'm done." Norris's came seconds later, flat and bitter, hit by Oscar, there was nowhere to go. And just like that, McLaren's sprint, their chance to fight Red Bull, to close the gap, to keep the dream alive, was over before it began. What followed was silence. Not the silence of calm, but the stunned quiet that follows shock. In the garages, helmets came off, eyes stayed down, no words spoken. Zak Brown stood frozen, one hand on the pit wall, watching the replays like a man replaying a nightmare in slow motion. Around the paddock, the questions began: who was at fault? Was it Piastri's move, Norris's position, or the Sauber's misjudgment? But as the replays rolled, one truth emerged: it wasn't recklessness. It was Formula One at its most human, brave, flawed, unforgiving. 1,000 variables aligning in a single, irreversible heartbeat. Long before the lights went out in Austin, the pressure was already building inside McLaren. Two young lions, both brilliant, both hungry, both driving the same machine, and both convinced they could be the one to bring McLaren back to championship glory. Lando Norris, the veteran of the team, 5 seasons of near misses, carrying the weight of expectation from walking to every paddock in the world. Oscar Piastri, the quiet prodigy from Melbourne, precise, analytical, relentless. Their rivalry had always been respectful, but beneath the calm words and polished smiles, the tension was undeniable. In 2025, McLaren wasn't just chasing Red Bull, it was racing itself. The cracks first appeared in Singapore 2 weeks earlier. A small contact between the two at the start, brushed off in public as just racing, set alarms ringing inside the team. Andrea Stella, ever the diplomat, called them both into a private meeting afterward. The message was clear: no contact, no ego, no risks. Both men nodded, agreed, and promised discipline. But racing drivers live in milliseconds, not in meetings. And when helmets go on, promises fade into instinct. Austin would test that unspoken truth. All weekend, the data told a story of equality, too much equality. In the simulator, both drivers posted identical long-run times. In practice, they finished separated by less than 1/10. In sprint qualifying, Norris edged Piastri by 38 thousandths of a second. Barely the length of a wheel rim. That margin set the tone. From the outside, McLaren looked dominant. Inside, it was an emotional powder keg. Two drivers equal in speed, but opposite in approach. Norris, expressive and intuitive, guided by feeling. Piastri, cold and precise, a human algorithm. Neither wanted to yield, not now, not on the eve of the championship fight. Austin's sprint format made everything worse. 19 laps, no pit stops, no strategy, just raw pace. The run-up to turn 1 was the only chance to make a statement. Verstappen on pole, Norris alongside, Piastri right behind. Zach Brown called it simple. Stella called it dangerous. Everyone in the paddock knew what that grid meant. One mistake, and the Orange Empire could collapse. It wasn't arrogance, it was inevitability. When two teammates are that evenly matched, the margin for peace disappears. And as they lined up on the grid, you could see it in their body language. Norris stared straight ahead, jaw tight, the visor locked. Piastri's eyes flicked to his mirrors, measuring the distance, calculating the launch. Behind them, engineers looked away, pretending not to feel what they all feared. The lights above the grid were still red, but for McLaren, they were already flashing warning signs. When the 5 red lights vanished above the grid, the tension that had been building for weeks finally exploded into motion. The roar of 20 engines hit the Texas air like thunder rolling across open plains. From the front row, Verstappen launched perfectly calm, clinical, untouchable. Just behind him, Lando Norris slipped the clutch a fraction too late. It was a hesitation so small it barely registered, but in Formula 1, half a heartbeat is everything. To his left, Oscar Piastri reacted flawlessly, his McLaren biting into the asphalt, surging forward, the nose inching ahead of his teammate before they even reached the hill. They climbed together toward turn 1 side by side, 2 orange missiles charging into a corner that narrows to a single car's width. Between them, no space. Behind them, a white blur, Nico Hülkenberg's Sauber, carrying too much speed, gambling on the slipstream. The uphill climb distorted depth and distance, the track rising steeply like a wall. In the cockpit, the world was a tunnel, noise, color, vibration. Piastri went for the inside, Norris stayed wide to hold the racing line, and Hülkenberg saw a flash of tarmac open between them. He took it. Then came the bump. A small ripple in the surface that's caught out drivers for years, hidden halfway up the hill. The Sauber hit it mid-brake. For less than a second, the front tires lifted just enough to lose grip. Hülkenberg's car didn't slow, it skated forward like a stone skipping water. Ahead, Piastri was already turning in, his focus locked on the apex. The contact was microscopic, a brush, a whisper, but at this speed, physics doesn't whisper back. The Sauber's front left kissed the McLaren's rear left. The result was catastrophic. Piastri's MCL 39 snapped violently sideways. The rear tires lost traction, the car spun across the face of the corner, cutting directly into the path of Norris. Lando never had a chance. His front wing clipped Piastri's side pod, sending both cars into a synchronized spin that looked almost choreographed if it weren't so brutal. One McLaren hit the curb, lifted, and came crashing back down, the other pirouetted toward the gravel. Within 3 seconds, McLaren's entire weekend had been destroyed. From the grandstands, it looked like chaos. From the pit wall, it felt like heartbreak. In the cockpit, it was survival. "I've lost the rear," Piastri shouted over the radio, his voice half drowned in static. "He hit me. I'm done." Norris's message came moments later, clipped, frustrated, "I got collected. There was nothing I could do." The smoke cleared, the 2 orange cars sat silent at the side of the track, and the Ferrari safety car lights flashed red against the blue Texas sky. The roar of 20 engines became a single stunned silence. For the marshals, it was immediate chaos. Debris scattered across the track, carbon shards glinting like glass. The safety car was deployed before Verstappen had even reached turn 7. Mechanics ran to the McLaren pit wall, their faces pale, scanning monitors that told them what they already knew. Both cars were gone. 2 DNFs, 0 points. On replay, the collision looked almost unreal in its precision. It wasn't a wild lunge or reckless move. It was geometry gone wrong. 5 cars funneled into a space built for 2. One driver trying to survive, another trying to win, and a third trying not to hit either of them, all bound by the laws of physics that don't care about championship standings or team orders.